Howdy friends, Tulio Peña here from the Peña team at Keller Williams Partners in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'd like to share with you today 6 different regions of Colorado Springs so you can learn a little bit about the lay of the land here, kind of what to expect in each part of town. And I'm going to share some positives and some negatives about each area, at least my opinion, okay? So I've lived here 30 years now, so I've learned a little bit, and as a realtor, I get around to all the different areas and I listen to my clients and learn what they've shared with me. So let's go ahead and start up in the Northwest. Okay, the mountains are always to your west when you're in Colorado Springs. That's the front range of mountains. They go from, the south part of Colorado all the way to into Wyoming. So we call it the front range. Our big mountain here is Pikes Peak. It's the 14,000 plus big guy, all right? But there's a bunch of other mountains that are also very large that run alongside Pikes Peak. The Northwest area is exactly that, the north and the west side of Colorado Springs. Our highway, our big guy, is I-25. That's our interstate. So we're talking about on the west side of the interstate and on the north side of Colorado Springs. Some of the things that I would say are the positives are there's a lot of natural beauty. Okay, you can live on the mountainside because mountains are not straight. They kind of do this a bit. You can have views of other aspects of the mountains or other mountains across a valley, but you also have a really neat view of the city, twinkling lights at night and stuff like that. With that, there's also wildlife. You get to see deer and things like that. It's beautiful. Okay, lots of mature trees on the mountainside, and the Northwest area is in an outstanding school district. It's School District 20, and it's also very close to the U.S. Air Force Academy, which is a pretty neat thing. High school kids actually get to go to school on the Air Force Academy. That's where the high school is, the Air Academy High School. So pretty neat, a lot of natural beauty, and the proximity to the Air Force Academy grounds is a pretty cool thing as well. They have so many things to offer there, and amazing D1 sports that you get to go watch if you liked it. So some negative things about living on the mountainside is most of the neighborhoods don't allow fencing. They like to keep it in the rules and regulations. The covenants require you to keep the areas open in most of the neighborhoods. So that can be a little challenging if you have pets. Okay, many people do have invisible fence systems there, but you do have to be careful as well because we have wildlife. There's mountain lions and stuff like that could take a smaller pet. If fencing is essential, that might not be the area for you. Other thing would be, there's a lot of hills. So if you're not as comfortable driving, particularly in the winter, you might want to consider that. You're going to be going up and down a mountainside all the time. So 4-wheel drive or front-wheel drive is pretty important, especially if you're going to live on the mountainsides. Other than that, the days tend to end sooner as well because you are on the mountain and the sun sets to the west. Okay, let's move on to the north and east side. And on the northern aspect of it, we call that for the most part Briargate. It's a big subdivision and it's made up of a lot of smaller subdivisions within it. Now, one of the things that Briargate is primarily known for is its highly acclaimed school system. It also falls in School District 20, same as Northwest. Okay, just different schools. We have plenty of grade schools, middle schools, high schools in that area, but that's one of the biggest draws is the rating of the school system over there. It tends to be more flat on that side of the interstate, on the east side of the interstate. There can be hills and stuff like that, but there's a brand new, pretty new park up there called John Venezia Park, which is amazing. It has synthetic grass fields and stuff. It has pickleball, it has tennis courts, basketball courts, splash pad, playgrounds that are phenomenal, pavilions that you can rent. So really neat park. And there's several new hospitals and medical center facilities all up there in the Briargate and Northeast area. Pretty neat outdoor mall as well, the shops at Briargate. That's where the Apple store is and some trendy restaurants and stuff. So, and also if you need to get up to Denver, it's one of the quickest shots from Colorado Springs because you're already so far north. Up to Denver to get to the airport if you're going to go to a professional sports game like the Broncos or the Rockies or the Avalanche.
Now, maybe from a negative standpoint, there's not a whole lot of negative about Briargate, to be honest with you, but just because the school system is so high demand, prices can be a bit higher to purchase in that area. Aside from that, some people might think that the terrain isn't as exciting as living over on the west side. It tends to be just a bit more flat, in areas. But the neighborhoods are beautiful, and you have everything you need in those areas. So not a whole lot of negatives on Briargate. Let's go ahead and talk about Central. Okay, Central is a more established and somewhat older part of Colorado Springs, and we kind of base it more on like where our downtown is, okay, and then how it grew out from there. So in the central part of Colorado Springs, there's more, I would say, charm in the home. We have turn of the century homes here. This is where you're going to find Victorian homes and homes built all the way up through the 60s and 70s. So lots of larger trees. The trees have even grown and cross and connect with each other in certain streets that you would drive through. I would say much more history in the homes as well, and architecture that you just don't see with modern homes, in all honesty. The other thing as well is, when you live near a downtown, our downtown is not like skyscraper downtown. We have some taller buildings, but it's mostly 3-story or 2-story buildings, shops, restaurants, bars, clubs, businesses, things like that are in our downtown. We have a municipal golf course, Patty Jewett Golf Course, that the neighborhoods around that are really neat. So there's some variety as well in there. Okay, and then Colorado College is a college that's downtown. The grounds there are beautiful, the buildings are historic, and there's some like bars, restaurants, things around it that are pretty neat. Now, from the negative standpoint, when you have older homes, you have older home problems, and just challenges of upkeeping an older home. Even the heating systems, the foundations often on Victorian homes are stone and mortar. They're not, poured concrete foundations. So you get the charm of having floors that might not be completely level and squeak a little bit more than modern homes floors would do. So, and bedrooms tend to be smaller as well with older homes. Bedrooms were more used for sleeping, not for hanging out and watching TV and having your flat screen in there and spending more time in back in the day. So let's head on over to the east side of Colorado Springs. Now, there's several roads that head north and south here. So Powers Boulevard is one of our other major arteries on the east side. So let's talk about neighborhoods around Powers and headed even more east of there, okay? For the most part, those neighborhoods tend to be newer, okay? We've got some neighborhoods out there like Banning Lewis Ranch, Stetson Hills, and newer areas all around there headed eastward. Okay, we have communities that run along Woodman Road that have homes that are just built within the last 10 years. So I would consider those relatively new. With those, and being that it is on the east side, it is more flat land. The further away you get from the mountains, the more you see that there's less trees, okay? And it can be a bit more windy, okay? Think Kansas, in a way, is the way, is what the terrain is like. So, but there's a lot of new stuff on the east side, along Powers Boulevard, primarily at this point in time, lots of newer restaurants, movie theaters, things like that are really fun for people to go visit. And because they're new, they can be a little bit more exciting, a little more enjoyable. Now, on that east side, one of the negatives, I mentioned it earlier, but it can be a bit more windy on the east side. Not as many trees. Some of the newer neighborhoods, they've really started to pack the houses in. You see a lot more vertical homes than spread out, say, ranch-style homes. The lot sizes have gotten tighter over the years. So, and because there's more new going on the east side, the west side got built out a while ago. So really the only directions you can go is east, north, and south. So east is what happens here quite a bit. Because of that, these areas are new. A lot of the underground infrastructure, the water, the sewers, the electric are all underground. And because there's an expense in that expense has to get made up somehow. So they put what's called special taxing districts in place. Special taxing districts cause the homeowners to pay somewhat higher taxes for, it could be 6 to 12 years until that gets made up. So taxes can be higher in newer areas, and there's a lot newer east. Let's move on to southeast. There are several neighborhoods that have been built south and east of Colorado Springs, and they're part of Colorado Springs, but they're a little further and a little more of a drive to get to. Think of Cachara's Ranch and Lorson Ranch. Okay, these are two communities that are surely in that area. The Glen at Whitefield is another one. Okay, these are newer neighborhoods, and many of them within the last 10 years, and they're still building. And great builders are in those areas. You'll see a higher propensity for people who are living in these neighborhoods to be military families, either Army down at Fort Carson, which is on the southern end of our county, or at Peterson or Schriever Air Force Base, just because of the proximity. It's very close to those type of places of work if you happen to be a military family. As far as negative goes, it's a bit further out, and when they build these communities a bit further out, sometimes, and in this case, there's not as many resources right nearby. Like you don't have a grocery store right. They're coming, and they're not too far away. That's relative to who you are, but there's not as many grocery stores and convenience stores in those areas yet, but there will be. And once again, since so many of those neighborhoods are newer, they often can fall in special taxing districts where taxes can be a little bit higher. Okay, so that's southeast. Now let's go to southwest. Southwest is back on the other side of the interstate, so it is more mountainous. It's a beautiful area. Much like the northwest area, many of the communities are more open, fairly large lots. The school district is highly rated, School District 12. It's not too far away to get to the downtown area, to be able to take advantage of the downtown area, or to cross over into Old Colorado City, or to get to Manitou Springs, which is a really cool, eclectic town near Colorado Springs. It kind of flows right into it. The southwest area also has the Broadmoor Hotel, which is a 5-diamond historic, beautiful hotel with tremendous golf, with multiple golf courses and beautiful facilities and restaurants all through it. And people who live in Colorado Springs go there for a weekend and stuff like that. But we have people that come from all over the country and world to stay at the Broadmoor Hotel. There's a lot of incredible historic homes around the Broadmoor and newer homes built in the last 10 and 20 years that are around it. Just a gorgeous place to live because of the beauty and what it's around. It can be a bit pricier to live there as well, though. So let's jump on over to the negatives about living in the Southwest. It can be a bit pricey, and it can price out a lot of people. The wildlife can be a challenge, like it can be on the northwest side. You got to be careful if you have small animals and stuff like that. You're not going to have them be outdoor pets for the most part without watching them. It's hillside living. There's a lot of roads that can wind and wind and wind up the mountainside for a long time. So you have to be comfortable with mountainside driving and have the right kind of vehicles with the right type of tires and be comfortable driving those types of roads. Because you're south and west, you are, further away from Denver. So if you need to get to the airport, you're going to be adding more time to your schedule than you would be if you lived further north in town. Okay, and then fencing is kind of the same thing as in the northwest part of town. There can be regulations, and there are regulations in many of the southwest neighborhoods against fencing. So invisible fences are often used for people who have dogs and pets like that. Usually you're a little more safe if the dogs are larger with wildlife. So those are 6 different regions of Colorado Springs, positive and negatives about every one of them. And if you find this type of information helpful, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and I'll keep bringing you more information like this.